All right. My name's Tyler Royke. I'm here with my co-host Jimmy Doolin, and you are listening to ABC Agent Broker Conversations, where we talk all things real estate without a bias.
Whoa. Hold on. We're going to have to change this up. I've been thinking about it, Tyler, and who in the heck doesn't have a bias? I mean, we got a bias on who makes the best burger. We can't decide who makes the best soda. So why in the world would two guys been in the real estate business for as long as we have not have a bias on the world of real estate?
So what are you thinking? We change things up. We get a little more opinionated here.
Well, honestly, at the end of the day, who wants to listen to a couple guys without a bias? Don't we need to have an opinion, a backbone, and put it forward and put that message out there? And then, there'll be those that challenge it and there'll be those that agree with it. But isn't that more valuable than just pretending like we don't have some opinion that we do have?
Sure. I feel you. I honestly have been holding back the last few episodes. So, I'm up for it if you want to go ahead and add some biases in there.
Yeah, I think we change it up and we just start talking and have a conversation about, real estate and with our opinions, right, wrong, or indifferent. There are opinions. So, we both just left the EXP Con, right? We were both there. You've been with EXP how long now?
Darn near 8 years. December will be my 8th year. Crazy enough. So
8 years. And so, like, how was this EXP Con for you?
I put it up there, all the way up there. There were only really two things that I felt were better at previous events. One of them, I don't know that you could really change. I honestly, both of them, I think it kind of was what it was. And it was one thing I heard, at the venues we've had them prior, you have the on-site hotel. So there was kind of one place like everyone would congregate. This time, the venue had no hotel attached to it. So instead there were just different hotels walking distance and they had shuttles and everything. But that was the one thing, just those who have been to prior events, I know that they liked having, everyone together at one place kind of in between and afterwards. It was, I think good for networking purposes. That being said, there was one hotel where a lot of the key leadership was staying, which is the same one I was at. And I rubbed shoulders with a ton of people just going to and from my room just about every single time. But the other thing was the closeout bash. We've definitely topped it, but in fairness, they did have to improvise last minute. They were going to do something really special on the beach, and the winds decided not to cooperate that day, so they moved it inside. So, I think it was very much short of what it would have been if the plan was carried out. But those two things aside, everything else I would say was the best I've ever seen it, from like how the general sessions were organized, the quality and caliber of the keynotes, both keynotes for that matter, were phenomenal. It was Jesse Itzler and Will Guidara, the guy, he's been on TV and has ran. He literally built the number one restaurant in the world. They got that award. But then also just the content in between, I felt like it was very well organized. There's been past years where it wasn't quite the case, where you would have like people come off stage and then there would be like almost no one knew what was going on for like a minute or two. This year, like, they did not skip a beat on anything. And I also felt that the quality and caliber of the breakout sessions was as good as I've ever seen it. And I kind of liked that. I noticed just a lot of different things. I really felt they put a high level of attention to detail on. For instance, the breakout rooms, a lot of them were standing room only. I think that was intentional. I think they could have gotten bigger rooms on a lot of them, but I think when you see the content and see that like people are like literally just trying to get into the room, I think it creates a different sort of almost FOMO, like, hey, I'm not in this one, I'm missing out or something. And just, I really enjoyed the week all around.
So, this was my second EXP Con. I went to, well, it was 33 years at Remax. And during that time, I probably went to 20 conventions in the 33 years. with the last 10 years, no gaps in my attendance, going to every single one. So a couple comparisons for me, things that I found interesting. Number one, I liked the clear and defined tracks. In other words, there was agent tracks for sales, building your business, etc., which I did not attend, but there were agent attraction, growth oriented tracks. So every single hour, there was a class that during every single class time, there was a class that applied to me that I was interested in. So I greatly appreciated that. I was able, I went, my wife went, and my son went. And my wife was able to go to things that she found she could attend and gain knowledge on building our brokerage and are building our team under this platform versus brokerage. But, things that she could do to be supportive of the agents. My son went to things that were helping him grow his sales practice so that he could be more successful and sell more homes. And like I said, I just focused on agent attraction. So I really enjoyed that piece. The speakers were all good. We always had good speakers at RE/MAX as well. So, this speaker, that speaker, but they were high quality. And Brian Carruthers, another one that was one of the big speakers, and I really, really enjoyed what he did. But I will tell you this: the one thing, if you're dreaming bigger than anywhere you've ever been, if you're dreaming bigger than anything you've ever accomplished, there is a really different place in EXP than there is in the traditional brands. My brokerage with my old model was at the top, not the very top, but it was in the top 20. And I can tell you that I never sat in a room with people and had conversations with people who were deep into seven figures, not just cracking seven figures, but deep in 10, 5, 8, 12, 15, whatever the numbers may be. And so if you're somebody, and so this is the category I fall in, right? I've been on the broker side of the business, trying to build a brokerage and building a brokerage since full-time since 2008. Prior to that, both sales and brokerage. The optimism and the opportunity that you feel with this platform is way superior. Tyler, I don't feel like, I feel like the only boundary, the only limitation is Jimmy himself. I feel like the only one limiting Jimmy is Jimmy. And that's a pretty interesting feeling. I thought, like you said, good content. I enjoyed the venue. I can understand why people would like to have it all in one place so that, the after hour conversations in the bars and restaurants and all that stuff, you bumping into more people, rubbing elbows with more people. I have no idea what attendance was. It seemed similar to attendance of previous events that I've been to for RE/MAX, et cetera. So I don't know what the exact numbers were. I never did even hear, nor did it really matter, to be honestly. But I just, man, I sat next to a guy at that Sunday class that we were both in. I sat next to the guy, and he was agent number 2 in South Africa. 1,100 people in his downline, and now earning well over $1 million a year, and moving his downline systematically and intentionally trying to move his downline to the United States because of the currency exchange rates, and he'll pick up 40 cents on the dollar for every American dollar or United States dollar he gets. So, but this was a guy just sat down at the same table. We started talking, and that's pretty substantial. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, after 8 years, maybe that feels old hat, but I don't know that. Maybe you settle into that and you just think, hey, this is the environment I'm in, and hallelujah. But man, for me, that was really eye-opening. I feel like there is a tremendous amount of opportunity, Tyler.
Absolutely. And you're really hitting the nail on the head of like the biggest reason why I actually go to these events I haven't already mentioned. It's these connections, it's the people you'll meet. And that's the primary thing. And that kind of leads, I mean, we're already diving into it, but I mean, today's conversation is around real estate events, the big events. And I think we'll get into a little bit more insight on, why we make the investment to attend. Myself, I've been attending these for about half the time. So the first half, the first 4 years I was with EXP, I never attended a major event. It was my fourth year in that I got to my first one. And I have attended them every single year since, multiple events per year at that. And I know you've have a track record where you've been attending major events for quite a long time, even going back to your previous brand, which you spent most of your time with up to this point. But yeah, exactly. That's what I realized when I attended my very first event, was the value in surrounding yourself with people that are on the same path, if not much further along the path that you're on, but that are taking their time out of their day and week really to be there and to connect and to have conversations, share insights. And for me, I think you have a lot more in the way of perspective in terms of like, hey, what are other events like? Because my first event I attended was an event, put on by a top leader within EXP. So most of the people there were EXP people. And so that was kind of my first exposure to big events. And so I haven't really personally had the contrast. I have had agents who I work with very closely who have attended other events. I had one of my top producing agents attended one of KW's big events this past year. And I got to hear from his experience being there and being at ours, just what some of the key differences were that he felt from being in that room. And it was really interesting to hear what he had to share from that. It seems from what I gather, a lot of it's just what you're saying, the caliber of the people you're connecting with is very different. But something that I get a sense of from what I hear from others is just the real sentiment of, hey, is there opportunity in the markets now, or what? How should we be approaching this? Because every time I've ever gone to one of our big events, including this past one, as we're closing out what is looking like it's going to be the lowest amount of units sold, and I don't even know how many years, right? The year prior was very low. I think it's on track to be lower this year. So a lot of people, definitely don't have the most positive mindset and outlook having been through this whole year. But all I hear at our events is a focus on the opportunity and what's ahead of us. And so, I don't get a sense that that's the case with others out there.
Yeah, so I want to make sure you said something, and I want to make sure that I don't say anything that's inaccurate here. It wasn't the caliber of the people that I met. It was the opportunity that this platform provides that other platforms don't provide. I have made some of the greatest relationships and friends with my former brand. And they are high caliber, high quality, very, very, very successful people, etc. The difference is that platform that they're on, success is, well, I mean, let's just use me as an example. At my biggest point, 700 or 250 agents at one point in time. Now, we were a very productive group. We did just shy of $1 billion in sales. So for 250 agents, we were absolutely rocking it. But in terms of the number of people that I, as the owner of that firm, was able to impact, it was 250. 250 on this platform. I'm not going to say it's a nothing, but it's not. It would not make me the 14th largest in this system. I wouldn't even be the 140th largest. I might be the 1400th largest. But I guess that's all I'm after, or all I'm trying to convey. There was just an epiphany for me that the boundaries have been removed. The opportunity has just, I mean, it's just unprecedented opportunity. And so from my perspective, I think sharing the good word, if you will, sharing the just unbelievable opportunity is so valuable. So I will say one thing that I really liked from an agent panel perspective. You have to be an icon to be a speaker. If you're going to talk on sales, you have to be an icon. I do think that is a smart move, and I think all brokerages, all brands have recognition for sales achievements, and if you want people to aspire to hit certain milestones, then I think you have a certain credential and a quality of speaker. Doesn't mean that they're expert speakers, et cetera, et cetera. It just means that the reality is they've been in the trenches. They're familiar with what the agent is trying to do, et cetera. And so they can actually convey real knowledge, and it's not hypothetical. We didn't have credentials like that in my previous brand, where you had to have achieved X, Y, or Z in order to get on the stage. It was more based on, well, I don't know what the criteria was, but there was no sales criteria. And I do think that's important. The few sales-oriented things I went to and saw and heard, I appreciated the fact that those were people of significant success before they got up there. No different than on the agent attraction. There wasn't anybody up there who, had 4 agents but they were speaking on how to do agent attraction, right? They were people up there of significant accomplishments speaking on and trying to share their wisdom with others on how to have a significant accomplishment. But my number one thing was just how big the opportunity is, just how big. Everybody can do better in an environment where their opportunity is bigger than they can see. And I'm a pretty big dreamer. I'm a big thinker type person. And man, there was definitely times of recognition when I went, holy smokes. I don't know what all the numbers are, but I kept hearing numbers from this person has this many agents, that person has this many. And there were just times when I was just, in awe of their accomplishments.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's that's the same way I felt when I got to my first event. And kind of at this point, I've been to so many, it doesn't really faze me anymore, but I'm very much aware of the opportunity and just the same kind of thing you're expressing. I love the fact that we all have the same opportunity, and we're in a particular vehicle where we can have an impact that previously there wasn't really much of a way to have an impact on much more than maybe 200 or 300 agents, like you've kind of mentioned. But yeah, in this particular structure and ecosystem we're a part of, that while that's not a small accomplishment, it's also nowhere near what the top people are doing.
So you'll have to correct my pronunciation because I'll probably get it wrong. But Brett Gove, is that right?
Brent Gove.
Brent Gove.
Yep.
Is that Gove?
Yep.
Okay. So, did you introduce me to him?
I don't think I did. I think I offered to.
There was, yeah, you did offer to. You're correct. There was I sat down at lunch. It was not the day that I sat with you at lunch, but the following day when I was sitting there and I said, if you wanted to join us, and you said you had a table. Sitting there with a lady that I met, having a nice conversation. She was sitting by herself, so I asked her if I could join her. And then my wife and son came up, and the four of us sat and talked and everything like that. Brent came up to talk to her. She introduced me to him. And when he walked away, she explained to us, how incredibly successful he is. I guess the largest, is that accurate?
Yep.
Okay. So that he was the largest agent in terms of attraction in EXP. She gave me a number. I have no idea if that's accurate, but it was astronomical if it is. Late, we had a nice conversation. Couldn't have been friendlier. He had some Remax background. I have Remax background, so we shared that. Yada yada yada. We went then back over to inside of the convention area where they have the luxury, and then they had like a guest area where if you brought a guest that you could bring him in to talk to people, et cetera, et cetera. We walked over there just because they had good free coffee there, and so I wanted to sneak over and get a cup of coffee. So I did, and Brent came walking up right behind me, and he got stopped, and they said that he couldn't, that area was for somebody else. And he goes, but my friends over there, they're in there. I know those two guys. And he's like, pointing at my son and myself, going, but those are friends of mine. I know them. Can I get in? And he goes, they used to be with Remax. I was with Remax too. And there was just, he was just kind of making a joke or whatever. So I walked over to him and I go, listen, Brett, as good as you must be, I would think you would have just kept your head down and walked right in. You wouldn't have stopped. I said, that's what I did. I just walked right in like I knew what I was doing to get my coffee. He goes, yeah, I suppose I probably could get in if I really, really wanted to. And we just kind of chuckled. But my point is simply, this is a guy, I don't know him from Adam. He doesn't know me from Adam. We just met briefly. But my son says to me, if that guy, Dad, is so successful, what's he doing here? Because, when you think about people and their successes, when they get to the pinnacle, right? They're at the top of the food chain. They're the big dog, if you will. They are it. These are the people that typically check out and go spend time on the beach and do things. I said to my son, I know that this organization certainly doesn't want to just produce incredibly successful people for them to disappear. You want them to be present. You want them to be engaged. You want them to share their wisdom, et cetera, et cetera. I know it blew my son's mind at 25 years old that this guy was as incredibly successful as he is, and both incredibly kind, but also 100% engaged there on site, doing what everybody else was doing, learning, talking, sharing. I was cool. I have to admit, it was really cool. An incredibly nice man. Which speaks more to him than the organization. But I guess if you've got a culture that is encouraging that, he wasn't isolated and removed because of his success. He was engaged, and he was demonstrating why he was so successful because of how engaged he was in a conversation, and how when he met you, he took the moment to get to know you as an individual.
Yeah, absolutely. And Brian Carruthers actually spoke to this, so this is basically in terms of network marketing, which there are some similarities, obviously, with our business model, but he's I don't know out of all network marketers in the world, like, how high he ranks on the list, but I would imagine top 5, if not number 1, because he has an organization over 400,000 associates in his organization at Legal Shield, and he is their top earner. So we got to hear from him, and this is someone who's been doing that business for darn near 3 decades. I think he's been 26 years or so in his company, so about half the time they've been around. But he actually spoke to this exact point, is how important it is for someone in his position to actually lead by example. So he said that to this day in his company, he's top 3 in the company for associates personally attracted. Even though he has the largest organization, even though he's number 1 earner, he's still to this day top 3 in the entire company in terms of the associates he personally brings in. So I thought that was I've never heard that takeaway before. So that was something really insightful to me. But also I can tell you, just having been to, events over the past few years, I have seen, if you look at who the top 10 are, with our organization within EXP, I've seen every single one of them on the ground at these events. Some of them you see them at every event, and some of them it's more rare than not, but there's not a single person I tell you that like they've just disappeared over the past few years. Like every single one of them is still very actively engaged and involved, and does get on the ground at these things more often than not, I would say.
On the Brian Carruthers, he said the book Untrapped. So one of the benefits of driving versus flying is your ability to listen. So I've already completed that on the way home. Actually, I completed 2 of his books. I completed Untrapped and Empire. And
Empire, yep.
Yeah, Build an Empire. So I did both of those books on Audible on my way home, and actually did Untrapped from Miami to Jacksonville, where we dropped our son off, so that he got to hear it as well. I really enjoyed his book. His success is no accident. That man has got a plan for everything. I was thoroughly impressed with his discipline, organization, and like all the things that you said. Still very engaged, still working it diligently, perched up on top of looking over the I forget what river in New York, but in Virginia, excuse me, but enjoying looking over the Erie, maybe, I think.
Yeah, because he shared like your people, like they learn by your example. They watch what you do. They don't, like, people don't really do as much of what you say as what you do. And so one of the points he was making to us in his short time speaking was how if you disengage as a leader, like, your top people in your organization are going to see what you do, and they're going to do more of that. And from what he expressed, that's a problem that people have who build really large organizations and, then get to a point financially where they could check out. They do. And then their group stops growing at that point. And if anything, it starts going backwards. And, I think there are plenty of situations where that's happened to people's organizations here as well. But kind of like I had already mentioned, though, like when you look at the very top people, that tends to not be the case. It's usually the people in between or are on their way when they eclipse that point financially. They come to find out later just, how detrimental that ended up being to their group. So I think that's a big part of like why these big leaders do, is they know just how important their example is, and for them to be involved in, just continue to build community, with their key people.
Well, that is, I think, I don't know. I certainly in my previous affiliation had access to the top people and had relationships as one of the top brokers in the system. So I don't know that everyone had access to understanding that and growing that the same way. But success at this brand is just, I don't know. It's just so much bigger. It's just so much bigger. I walked away from there and incredibly humbled, thinking to myself that I haven't accomplished anything yet. I still have a tremendous, tremendous way to go to be anybody or any kind of accomplished person in this organization, which honestly, I like that. I like the challenge. I've got to rise up to it. And which brings me to some questions. I know we're talking about the convention and what it was like, but did you hear any good tools that people are using in terms of tracking, organizing themselves in terms of agent attraction? And by the way, the one thing that I heard over and over and over again was agent attraction, not recruiting. That I think that the movement of recruiting has subsided. I think that this organization is gotten a better handle on how they grow, and they grow through creating the best organization, the best real estate company they can be, and that will attract talent. I mean, some of the freebies and things that they did in terms of giving away Canva Pro, some of those things were pretty big. I know we can't get a dog wash for free or our car wash for free, but we can market the properties we've been hired to sell for free on a better, more better platform. So I guess there's pros and cons, right? Hey, again, we're not unbiased now, right?
Yeah.
I mean, let's just, yeah. So they did announce Canva Pro. What else did they they announced the success of FastCap.
Yeah, there's a new the FastCap's been great. Sisu, this platform that I need to dive into it more, but everyone at EXP is going to have access to it for.
That's what I was trying to say earlier when I said C-suite.
Sisu. Okay, I got it.
How do you spell that?
SISU.
Okay, that's what I was. When I said,
I might be saying it wrong too, but yeah, that, and then the incentives too for production, as far as if you're a capper or if you're an icon agent, how you just have more of your organization opened up. I thought that was a really, really cool thing for those that have been more focused on production. And that's kind of, it's funny because that's one of the things that people trying to compete with us like to beat us up about is, oh, you guys just recruit. And to your point, I mean, we really are focused on I'd say attraction. I mean, I don't really hear anyone in the EXP ecosystem who thinks in terms of recruiting. And if you look at, and the difference with that is like recruiting, that's when you're, and funny enough, I think of Remax when I think of this, because these are whenever I've gotten a recruiting phone call, it's been a Remax person. Or actually KW's done it too, but regardless, that's what I think of, is someone picking up the phone and basically prospecting, on that. Like our top people, they don't do that. Like they have content they're putting out there. They're adding value. They're sharing, the exciting things we're doing, the stories they're putting on their feeds. Like a lot of how they're growing, I can only think of literally 2 people I know who are hammering the phones to make this happen. Everyone else, they're doing stuff that attracts people into their ecosystem.
And the company is focused on being the best real estate company it can for realtors. And they're doing that with the idea that the byproduct of being the best brokerage they can for agents is they will then be the largest brokerage, right? So the emphasis is on tools and systems and training, and that all support an agent growing their business. That and again, with the byproduct being growth. If we can help through FastCap, which is our new proprietary training program that is now after its first 3 runs, they had an average, those agents in there. And by the way, most of those agents were brand new to the business, but those agents averaged 4.5 appointments and 2 transactions in a 6-week class, and were introduced and became highly familiar with the tools and systems and things that were available to them through EXP. When you can take a new agent and in 6 weeks help them get 2 transactions under their belt, you're moving the needle in a positive direction.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so, and that's something I see too, is just there's so much. I mean, up to this point, there's so much we have to help someone who really wants to hone in on their production, whether they're at the starting point or whether they're somewhere in between. Maybe they had a solid year last year or the year before, but their sales have dropped off. I've never seen so much in the way of resources, from obviously the training, the tools, the systems, but like for a lot of people that aren't already utilizing all that stuff, it's just because they haven't really dove into it. They're not familiar with it. So something that really will help with that is these programs like FastCap that we're coming out. The whole goal is literally what the name says. Like, hey, let's hit your cap fast. Let's get you at least to $80,000 in gross commissions as quickly as we possibly can. So that's how that whole program is designed. And the way they designed it is they did a pretty hands-on study. They looked at, they have all the data. They looked at, hey, out of everyone here who went from 0 to their cap the quickest, who was relatively new to the business. So they looked at like a sample, it was like 100 people, and they spent time one-on-one with them. Like, okay, tell us what you do, like show us how this all works. And they looked and they noticed all the different things these people had in common. And that's where they built out this curriculum and really systematized it. But also what I was wanting to mention earlier is for someone who is building their attraction business, and that's kind of the, part of what I've heard out there, just like, oh yeah, all you guys want to do is that and not sell. Well, here's the thing. EXP literally just opened up to anyone selling at a high level to have that part of their business automatically fully unlocked. So, if you have anyone in your organization, maybe you attracted one person at one point and they've gone out and got some people, and you might have something in the way of an organization. Well, it wasn't all that long ago that you wouldn't really see the financial upside of much beyond that one person. Well, they had some updates this past year. They just announced some updates this past week where literally, hey, if you're a capping agent and if you're an Icon agent, capping, you almost have all your organization unlocked just for capping. Now, if you're an Icon, you literally have your whole organization unlocked. So, if you have a group of people 4, 5, 6 tiers down, like you're literally going to see every single dollar of the potential payout on that now. Even if, again, all you want to do is focus on production, well, great. Now it's easier than ever to have an additional stream of income based on what you've actually contributed to the growth of this company.
Did this impact you?
Personally?
Yes.
No.
Okay.
No, I already have.
My wife, it opened up, it added 7 more agents that she'll get paid on.
So it didn't impact me because I already have all 7 tiers unlocked, but that's what I've done is a very unusual thing.
How many in your front line?
Right now, 110.
Wow, that's big. Yeah. So for Tamara, that opened up, she's already capped and is close to iconing. So, it added 7 people that we weren't qualified to receive on. And they're 7 productive agents there. So for us, it was pretty good.
Yeah. And I'm excited about it because my mindset, I don't know. I haven't really talked to anyone about this, so I'm not really sure what everyone else is thinking. But what I think immediately when I hear this is, okay, if our most productive agents out there selling the most are more excited about this opportunity, we're going to grow faster. We're going to attract more people. So, that's what I really like about it, because I do have Icon agents in my group, people I've personally attracted. I do have plenty of capping agents too. And so, if they're aware now that, okay, it just got that much easier for me to actually see the upside of all this, and if that can help them, at least be cognizant of the opportunities they have out there to make a connection, as they're going about their business, that can be massive. Because I think some of the people that could most easily attract agents are those doing the most production, because you're dealing with other agents all the time on these other deals. So, what better way to have a connection than someone you've successfully had a closing with? So, I'm definitely going to be, I know all my people that are doing that production already know, because we all got the emails, but I'm going to especially be, more in their ear about it. Like, hey, who can I meet? Like, I want to meet the people you're connecting with.
Yeah. Well, that was a big surprise when they did that. I mean, they had already unlocked level 3 for everyone, and now
Yep.
level 5 if you've capped, and level 7 if you icon, and that's for 13 months is what I saw the timeline that they've unlocked those levels for you for 13 months. That's substantial. I mean, that's going to, I don't know what that relates. I guess from a potential 7 people right now for us, if you figure 7 people at, that could be another 20 grand for the year or something. I mean, it's a decent chunk of change that we have an opportunity to earn. So Canva Pro, are you an active user of it?
I am. I pay it's like $15.99, so I do pay for that right now. So
I do too.
I get to cancel that here very shortly. And they're no added charge for it. That's just part of the what we're already paying in to have that, which is pretty awesome to me.
I think that's when you just get to a certain size, right? And you can scale some of these tools, because, I'm sure that Canva looks at this and says, okay, we can have the entire 90,000 agent network. So they come up with something that works for both parties, but good on them for figuring it out. I think Wendy, our new chief marketing officer, she's astute and seems to really have her finger on the pulse of this. And from the brand glow up through adding tools like this, they seem to really be focused on making it a better real estate platform for realtors to sell real estate.
Absolutely. So, yeah, Jimmy, what would you say, like, your final thoughts or takeaways related to these big events? I know there's probably people listening. Maybe they haven't experienced one. Probably the most common thing I have a few people local to Miami. Unfortunately, I didn't see any of them this past week. One of them in particular, I asked them what the deal was. Like, hey, why? Like, I know you literally just had like 3 closings. Like, what's stopping you from getting to this event? And it was money. So a lot of people, they see the ticket price, talking about $1,000 for a ticket, which, for those that don't already know this, that's a loss leader for our company. That's a loss leader for pretty much any company doing these big events. They're not making money on these. They're just like getting as much of the cost covered as they possibly can, because it costs so much to actually logistically do everything required to host one of these. But companies like ours know how important this big event is for building culture and having a place for our community to come together. So that's why they make that investment. So point is, even when you spend that much on a ticket, like, you're getting more than the value out of it, just because it's going to cost more than that to deliver it. But all that aside, like, what's your thoughts and feedback for those listening who maybe that is the biggest obstacle, is the price to get in the door, and maybe they don't know if the time is right? What would you say on that?
Well, number one, they, I believe, are addressing that for next year and allowing you to take a little bit out of your closings. They've set up a plan where you can take a little bit out of closings to go towards your ticket for next year. So I saw that mentioned somewhere, and I don't recall exactly where, so I don't have all the details, but maybe go to your state broker or the accounting area on WorkChat. So my opinion of events like this, I think they are incredibly valuable. I mean, so, I got home and I went through I had 2 sources where I had kept stuff, and I got, 2.5 pages of the really valuable, where I just make, look at this, check this out, go here, look at this type of thing. And I had 3 pages. And so for me, I take that information, I then type it up, which is what I've done here. And then once I type it up, then I start going down and check off each and every one to make sure that I look at them. So I'm 35 years in the business. I've never been to any convention, Remax, Real Trends, Swanepoel, Inman, now EXP. I've never been to any of these type of things and not learned something. And certainly I've never been to any of these and not met somebody that informed a relationship with somebody that I didn't previously know. So I'm a huge advocate for them. I believe they're incredibly important. They're incredibly valuable. I understand the costs. I mean, I had myself, my wife, and my son. So I certainly understand the costs associated with these things. But I think you can manage it all, and if you start planning for it now, put yourself in a better position so that next year that burden isn't coming out of your cash flow. You've already set it aside and made arrangements. Because honestly, once you bought the ticket, there's really, there's not too much additional in terms of expenses. There are people that share rooms and other things, but yeah, I found it incredibly valuable. I'm thankful. Especially in a cloud-based brokerage like this, I think it's probably even more valuable to a cloud-based brokerage than it is your traditional bricks and mortar. Because, I went to dinner with my sponsor. He took a few of us out, and, at that dinner, there was 1, 2, 3, 4 people that were on staff that I got to, and one of them was Corey, who's on the legal team just under Jim Bramble, head chief counsel. So, that was pretty cool because I had dealt with them. I talked to them in my transition over. So then I had an opportunity to put a face with a name and build upon that relationship. So there's so much to come from them, and anybody who undervalues that is really selling themselves short. There's great opportunity in front of them. And, as I started this segment, there's just no limitations to what you can do with EXP. And I think that's, for me, I just blown away by that. I can't say it enough because it was just so evident that I have the platform in front of me to do and accomplish anything I set my mind to.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's a very special opportunity in time, especially in our ecosystem. But yeah, I can't instill enough to people out there just the importance of getting to these big events. Like for me, it literally changed everything. Because like when I was 4 years into EXP, it was a little over 3 years. By the time I got to my first big event, I didn't understand the value, but I made the commitment to get there. For me, I was in, just if I looked at the years prior, it was like probably the lowest point financially I had been since I got started in real estate. So it was not a convenient time to make the expense, but I made it. Someone put the right words in my ear and convinced me that I needed to be there. And so, I did what it took financially, figured out how to put the funds together, and I got there. Even though if you looked at everything else, you could say it probably wasn't the right thing to do financially, but it turned out to be the right thing to do because by getting there, I got an experience that I had never seen in my life before, just being around so many other people that have done bigger things. And it opened some things up in my mind. It's like, I feel like I had the right pieces of what to do, how to go about it, but something about being in that room, it helped it all come together. And from that point on, things really started to change in a massive way in my business. Like to put in context, like when I got to that event, I had 5 agents in, almost like 3.5 years almost that I had personally attracted. 5 agents in 3.5 years. Fast forward, 4.5 years later, I literally have 110. And thinking back on it, I don't think there's any way that would have happened if I didn't get to that first big event. Because again, it put some pieces together And I really came away with that with a very clear vision and idea of how I could really build in a very significant way. And for me, that changed everything. Since that time getting to the big events, I've been a very big advocate to the agents I personally work with to get there. And Jimmy, I know you had a chance to meet several of the guys I've personally brought into the company there at the event. Something that you may not know that I could say now is like every single one of them. If I look at the top agents in my group, that especially the ones you'll meet on the ground at those events, they all have something in common. And that's the fact that they made the commitment to get to one of these big events before they had all the production they have now. Like many of them, actually, they got there when they only had like 0, 1, or 2 deals closed. And now they're doing 30, 40 plus a year. And that's something that, like clockwork, almost every single agent I work with that, has that kind of production and has built it over the last 2-3 years, they all made the commitment at the beginning when arguably they didn't have the finances to do it, but they made it happen anyway.
Yeah. Well, yeah, which is why they are where they are now. Hey, I got to say, this is so much more fun because I don't have to be careful when I open my mouth, which is really very difficult for me anyway. So maybe this allows me to speak more freely or more often because I'm not guarded. I was always worried I was going to offend somebody since we said an unbiased approach. And I like just being truthful and honest in my opinion. Whether my opinion's right or wrong, that's debatable. And probably more often than not, it's wrong. But it's my opinion. So it's based in something that has led me to believe what I believe. So but a lot more fun. I can see doing this, continuing to do this. I debate subjects with us. There's going to be times where you and I disagree, and I think that's going to be fun too. Neither one of us disagreed on the convention. It was a great time, great people, great culture. It was fun all the way around. But yeah. So hey, if you can come back, see us again. We're going to post these every week, once a week. An agent broker conversation. So come have a conversation with us. Like, comment, ask questions. We'll certainly do our best to get answers to it. Argue with us. If you don't agree with us, tell us you don't agree. We're okay with that. Heck, I've been married 26 years. I've never been right very often, not in the last 26 years at least. So I'm completely okay with being told that I'm wrong. Aren't you, Tyler?
Yeah, very used to it by now.
At any event, we appreciate you. We welcome you back to the conversation next week. Until next week, have a great week.
Awesome. I thought that was great.